Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Emerge Podcasts. We're joined today by our Canadian friend Sean Tyler Foley, but we can call him Tyler for the duration of this interview. So
I think that's till Sean Tyler Foley allows us to call him just Tyler.
Aye, it's a bit long. But so Tyler, thanks very much for coming on. Thanks for taking the time, and it's good to speak to a Canadian.
Well, I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am to be able to speak to two brethren across the sea with such lyrical musicality in their voices. I will try my absolute damnedest not to do the world's worst impersonation of a Scottish accent because it will delve rapidly into either mockery or Sean Connery, one of the two.
You should try. You should. Aye. Then Gavin will do his Canadian accent.
All right, then, lads. Well, that's I'm game. Right, no, let's do this thing. Okay.
That's great.
First of all, I can do it like this. I do it like this, or I can give you a real deep Sean Connery. One of the two. You pick which one you want, because I can do it either way. I'll do a whole interview like this, but Gavin has to do his best Canadian.
I don't. But give me something that you would say as a Canadian.
Oh, so you want a good Canadianism is what you're asking for. Right, I can what you say. All right. You want to say, okay, hosers, down to the rink. Let's watch some hockey.
Oh, I forgot it already. But okay, hosers. I was like Texas on it, like a cowboy.
No.
That compete with a professional actor, Gavin. No. Man, really, you're just no chance.
Oh, spot on, Gavin. Spot on.
But anyway, so Tyler, tell everybody, you're probably best at explaining it, what you are. So you're a man of many talents, but give us a rundown. What's your bio?
Dossier.
All right. Well, so yeah, as you mentioned, jack of all trades, master of none. I've been an actor basically all of my life. I started in film, television, and theater when I was 6 years old. So I have a 35 plus year history in the performing arts. I always end up coming back to it. I've retired from the business a couple of times. I retired from theater when I was 17 and then got sucked back in. I retired from film and television when I was 25, got sucked back in. It's kind of like the mob that way. You can never really leave. But, and I've dabbled in a lot of different things. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys are fans of Mike Myers, but I love Wayne's World. It's one of my favorite movies of all times. And one of the best lines from it. Yeah. Wayne's World, right? One of my best lines is when he's walking through at the beginning and he's introducing his suburb of Aurora, Illinois. And he goes, I've had a lot of Joe jobs in my life. Nothing I'd call a career. Let me put it to you this way. I have an extensive collection of hairnets and name tags. And then he does this thing. I've been there, right? Because as an actor, you are never just an actor. You are an actor right? Like everybody's a waiter or a something, or they work at, when it was still around, Blockbuster Video, right? Like whatever they did, then server. And so I've worked in everything from aviation. So I used to load planes on the ramp, and then I was way too pretty to load planes on the ramp. Then they shuffled me inside and I was an inbound baggage agent, which basically means I was the guy you yelled at when we delayed your luggage because it was never lost. We knew where it was. It just wasn't where you wanted it to be. And, I've been in safety. I've been in surveying. You name it. I was even an electrician very poorly for about 6 months of my life until my friend had to mercifully fire me from it, because you guys can't see. I'm 5'8" and 140 pounds. I don't know what that is in stone, but I know that it's small. I am a wee man. And these hands are not built for laboring. So I didn't electrician well.
I feel your pain with this, with the small side of things. I feel that. I'm very much the same stature.
5'2", Gavin?
5'2", Gavin.
5'6".
5'6", so that's like 5'2".
Yeah.
Feels
5'8".
Right? I feel like 5'2" half the time, where I, except for when you get on set. So that's the funny thing. Everybody looks bigger on film.
Is Tom Cruise not like 4 foot something?
He's not 4 foot something,
small.
but he's barely 5'5". Yeah. I think he's like 5'5", 5'6", something like that. I'm sure it's a quick Google search, and all of us are wrong on how tall Tom Cruise actually is right now and what our guess is, but it's something like that.
I think he can change his own like bio or something like that. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
That's what he
Wikipedia. This entry was most recently updated by Thomas Cruise on
1.7 meters. It says. Oh, there you go. Tom Cruise height, feet and inches, 5'7".
No,
5'7".
Is he?
Yeah, so
wow,
we're pretty close.
So Tom Cruise is in between myself and Tyler. So
that's right.
There we go.
So if
if
Tom's looking for a body double, obviously he's going to ask one of us to.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably Gavin.
That's very hard to believe. But what was, so going back to you grew up in Alberta, in Calgary.
Yep.
What was that like? I've been to Canada once, and it was the best place I've ever been in my life. I've never been to Alberta though, but what's the difference? Because that's a bit more rural, isn't it, than like Toronto?
So we are Texas North. First of all, what you need to know, we're Texas North. Don't quite have the drawl, which is my favorite thing. So because I've had a few careers, and one of them being oil and gas, and because Calgary and Houston are basically hubs. Right. I used to travel a lot back and forth to Houston, and it's always fun going there because, much like right now, I'm the one with the accent. But I don't know that. I'm just me. Everyone else has the accent. So it's always fun to go down to Texas and be told just how cute your little accent is. You're like, thank you. So is yours. Let's keep talking. But Alberta's beautiful. It's, last bastion of protected wildlands, really, and not just my neck of the woods, my province or my country, but in the world. We have some of the largest national forests, protected lands. The Rocky Mountains are less than a half-hour drive out my front door. I can literally get there, and all kinds of fun things that you can do. I ski in the winter, I hike in the summer. Some of the most pristine and untouched lands that you can see. And then directly to the east of me, prairie land, flat. I can see Saskatchewan from here. It is flat, but wheat fields and farming, and Calgary is such an interesting city because it's such a blend of both the rural, there's a very large farming community. I grew up in a farming community just south of Calgary, and then you have this really cool urban mix. So we have a lot of tech companies, a lot of oil and gas that's here, a lot of manufacturing that's here. So it's a really, really cool, really vibrant city, and really, I'm blessed. I've lived probably 20, 25 cities all around the world. I think I lived on 4 continents if I do the math right. Wow. But I always end up back here just because, there's beauty everywhere to behold, but I get it all in a 1 hour radius right here.
So do you get 4 seasons in a year? Do you get?
Oh, yeah. I get 4 seasons in a day.
So we get 4 seasons in a day.
I don't know.
My birthday is July 31st. And in the 42 years I've been blessed to be on this planet, I have had it snow on my birthday 4 times in Alberta. It happens about once a decade, and it always makes me laugh. I'm like, yeah, that feels about right. Middle of summer, let's have a snowstorm. The snow never lasts, but we have some incredible weather patterns here, mostly because of the Rocky Mountains. So we get a really cool weather phenomenon known colloquially here as the Chinook. And it's just a warm air mass that comes over from the Pacific. It rides the jet stream, and we have the massive jet stream runs over the Rocky Mountains and basically cuts over Calgary. And it can be, February. And because we have a nice UK audience, I can actually talk in Celsius, which is glorious. So it'll be minus 20, minus 30, maybe even minus 40 here. And then all of a sudden you get the Chinook come in, and you can see it. It's beautiful. It's this big, massive cloud arch that basically It's dark gray sky overhead, and then this beautiful strip of blue that goes right over top of the mountains. And the Rocky Mountains are massive, so you can see them for miles. And this warm air literally gushes over, so you get this strong breeze gusting usually 30, 40K. Wow. But it's like 10, sometimes 15 degrees, which when you're at minus 40, even when it rises to 5 degrees, like, it's hilarious. 5 degrees in fall, people are bundled up, they're in sweaters. 5 degrees in February, it's Bermuda shorts and tank tops, and let's have a barbecue, because look at how glorious the weather is.
That's amazing.
But yeah, no, we get full seasons. I mean, this winter was brutal. We just got dumps and dumps and dumps of snow, but it made it pretty, and it was fun. And because it was COVID, it was lockdown. It's not like I had to drive anywhere. And I live in a very, very rural community, so I have a truck. I 4x4 when I get out my front door. And so, whatever, it's snowdrift, you go and you do your thing. I remember living in Vancouver, actually, and again, acting. And so you're never just an actor. And one of the jobs that I'd picked up was being a mail sorter for Canada Post during their Christmas rush. Ooh. So it was middle of December. I think it was just before Christmas too. Like, we're talking December 19th, 20th, 21st, somewhere around there. And Vancouver got a snow dump. Now, Vancouver is a coastal city and does not know what snow looks like. They don't have a plow. So what they got was about this much snow. Now in Calgary, that's a light dusting, right? Like 2-3 inches, light dusting. It doesn't even blink. Traffic doesn't stop. Vancouver shut down, and it was like a scene from one of those zombie apocalypse movies, because their main intersection there, they have this big huge street called Georgia Street, and it's like 4 lanes either side, undivided. It's just this massive thoroughfare through the middle of downtown Vancouver, and the post office was on the corner of Georgia and Howe. And I remember standing in the middle of that intersection, which normally would get you killed in 5 seconds. Like, you'd be smoked by somebody doing at least 80K. But on this day, I was able to look down. You could have shot a cannon and hit Stanley Park, like straight down. Nothing. And it was eerie because snow is sound insulating. So there was no sound. Yeah. It was just dead quiet and calm. And I was like, okay, I'm alive.
In heaven.
So either the world is dead or I'm in a dream of some kind, because I can't figure this out. It was creepy.
That's one thing that always kind of, when I say I've been to Canada once, and we spoke about the kind of seasons, and it was always like, when it snows, nothing really stops. Obviously in different states or provinces it will, but like, everybody's got snow tires, everybody's got like fucking the train system, or your metro is like flawless, so nothing stops.
So I already know that you visited out east, because I would agree with you that nothing stops the trains out east. But come out here, we don't have trains. I mean, we have good transit. But one of the unique things about transit, particularly in Alberta, is we have to have it sheltered. Right. So and pedestrian walkways too. We have a system here in Calgary called the Plus 15, where all the downtown buildings are interconnected, so that you can walk. It's, again, minus 30, minus 40 outside, snow drifts as high as cars, but you can still walk between the buildings without ever having to go outside. And Edmonton has done something similar, only they've put everything underground. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of infrastructure that is either above grade or below grade to try and make it
possible,
commutable during apocalyptic weather.
So we were like, Glasgow's not great at handling snow. Like, was it the Beast for the East? Remember we had that? And
that was about 4 years ago. I'd say 3 years ago, and that's like the full of Glasgow shut down people for 2 weeks. I think it was. That was crazy. It literally was like that much snow, and everything closed.
We only had 1 or 2 snowplows for a full city. How many people live in Glasgow, Kevin? I don't know.
700,000 or 600,000, something like But the thing, the thing about Glasgow, or probably Scotland in general, is that every single weather, like if it's too warm, the trains will stop because the railways are too warm. If it snows, you can't do it because it's snow. If it rains, it's too wet. And you're like, for fuck's, we just can't win.
But transport's pretty.
It's not good, is it?
The more reliable thing is the underground. We have a good underground. It just goes in a big loop.
Yeah,
that's quite functional if you can get to it.
If you can get to it.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is too, I mean, you're quite coastal, so when you get snow, it's the wet, heavy stuff when you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
where
it's like
here,
horrible.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like we get a massive mixture. So sometimes we get really, really heavy, wet Pacific snow. And it's like perfect for it's like everything that you ever see in a movie where people can just instantly make a snowball and whip it at people and everybody's making, snowmen and stuff. It's really wet. It's really hard on the traffic because you can't go through it because it's basically like walking through a slushy. But then we also get this really, really, really light, sprinkly, pretty, they call it champagne powder when it comes from the Arctic front. And then it's really light and dusting. And what's interesting about it is like right now with all the thaw going on along the riverbank, you can see these different compression layers where you have this light crystalline layer and then this dark, heavy ice layer and then this light crystalline layer. And it's all in this strata. It's just cool to see. But it's also super dangerous because as a skier, all that stuff dumps on top of itself. And that's what creates wicked good avalanches. So there's beauty and danger in everything.
Yeah.
Even our snow
but
can
it's
be
structurally
lethal.
very unstable.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Especially if they get a really light layer first.
Yeah.
And then you get the heavy snow on top because it just compresses and that light layer acts as basically ball bearings because it creates an air pocket and then it compresses and moves along like a hovercraft.
Wow. I'll maybe try and visit Calgary in the summer then. Stay away from the...
No, just make sure you're going on groomed trails. I strongly, strongly advise, particularly to anybody in the UK who's coming over, you've got to visit in the summer. You got to come at least once to visit the Stampede because it's like Calgary's big event. And it's, you want to see Western culture showcased, come to the Stampede. But also, you don't want to be here too long during the Stampede because it's not a really good, accurate judge of the city. You got to do it at least once, but don't stay too long. Get out to Banff because
is that Lake Louise? No?
Yeah, Lake Louise.
Yeah.
And if you can, even up from Lake Louise is a lake that used to be on our $20 bill called Moraine Lake. And it's in the Valley of the 10 Peaks, and it is pristine. It is beautiful. It is a blue color of water that you don't see anywhere else in the world. It's almost emerald. It's just beautiful. And that whole Banff area, from Banff to Lake Louise and the Banff National Park, winter and summer has its beauty and its benefits. So if you can come in both seasons, and we get all the seasons too. So fall is gorgeous because you get all the beautiful foliage and the colors of the leaves and reds and yellows and golds and green with the evergreens in between. It's just there isn't an ugly time of year to come here, but it's worth seeing each season here. Yeah, for sure.
That's what the adverts we had for Air Canada. It was like, visit Canada. So I feel like that's what you've just given us. It's emerald and pure, very, very descriptive. Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Sorry.
Was that
you're forgiven, Kenny?
Was that one of your jobs that you had as well? Did you work for Air Canada doing adverts as you were?
No. So here's the funny thing: Air Canada used to get mad at me for being as jovial and as jocular as I tend to be. Like they really hated it when I got on the mic and made announcements. I thought I was doing a public service, right? Because people would come in and they wouldn't know where to find their stuff. And one of my favorite things to do was do it in accents. So I would do a Sean Connery accent and people would come in and be, ladies and gentlemen, inbound from flight 005 from London Heathrow, you will find your luggage on carousel number 2. That's 2, not 1, but 2. Carousel number 2 is where you will find flight 005 from London. For those of you who have packed any odd size or misshapen bags, or possibly anything that's fragile, such as musical instruments, ski equipment, or even your BMW, you will find that on the odd size carousel that is just to the right of my desk, right? And I would do stuff like that all the time. And then inevitably, a manager would come down and be like, Tyler, we're gonna need to talk. Need you to tone it down. We're a professional company and a professional organization. But the thing is, whenever they would do their professional broadcasts, right? Passengers coming in on flight 005 from London Heathrow. Your baggage will be dispensed momentarily on carousel number 2. All odd size items are located to the right of the hall. Right? Nobody listens. And so inevitably, half the people would leave their luggage behind, particularly if you were in the customs hall, because our customs works weird. When you come in on an international flight, you have to clear customs and then get onto your next flight. It isn't just automatically tagged on. They've worked around that a few places, but still, for the most part, if you're coming in, particularly from the States, you're going to have to pick up your luggage, clear customs, and then go to another area and recheck your baggage in. And so people would think, oh no, my bag's checked on to wherever. Yeah. And it is, but you still have to pick it up. And so when I did my announcements, everybody listened and they would pick up their bags and they would go, and I wouldn't have bags to clear at the end of the flight. For these guys who had absolutely no care what they were doing, but were doing their announcements professionally, they always had extra work at the end of the flight.
So you work smart, not hard.
That's right.
Just enjoy. You're enjoying your work, which is, if you can get your employees to enjoy their work. What's the airline in America? I was trying to Google it there when they do the seat belts and the bags at Southwest Airlines, where they do it like it's funny and jokey and.
Oh, you're talking about WestJet.
WestJet. That's who I flew to Canada with, WestJet.
So WestJet used to be really funny, but they got very Air Canada very quick. They're now a big airline. They used to be, and the fun thing is that airline actually started here in Calgary. It was a Western low-cost one. It was based off of Southwest Airlines model. And Southwest still does all the fun jokes. Yeah. But if you flew WestJet, I think they're on to their 20-year anniversary now this year. If you flew WestJet 10 years ago, you would have had fun, jocular people. One of my favorite jokes that I ever heard on a WestJet flight was the in-flight stewardess said, right, with the overhead luggage, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Calgary. Before opening the overhead bin, please remember that shift happens, so be careful when opening it. I'm like, shift happens. No, clever, right? But they don't do that anymore. Now they're very, parlez-vous en français? They will give you their instructions in English and in French and go about their business. They're very. Yeah, it's a different mechanical airline now. Just sad. It's Air Canada Light.
Is there a lot of French Canadians like near where you live?
Not even a little bit.
Not even?
No. The French Canadians are concentrated around Quebec. I have a few Quebecois friends who are here in the city, and I do occasionally get to converse poorly in French with them. There's a few more out towards Banff because, again, national park, and there's a real drive, being a national site, to have bilingual representation there. But actually, there's more Australians in Banff right now than there are Quebecois and French-speaking folk. So it's come out. It's an interesting cultural dip when you come to Banff, because all the Australian surf dudes come up here for 6 months a year to work the ski hills and then go back down and surf in Australia.
What a life.
Let's talk about you a wee bit. I feel like we spoke about
Air Canada,
Airways, and Australian
Seasons.
For a very brief moment. Seasons. Where do you want to start?
Acting.
When's acting?
Well, I know
let's
about the
go
acting stuff.
Acting, and then move for there. Like, how did it start? Like, how did you?
How did I
eventually
start?
Go, yeah, because did you know do acting for a very, very young age?
Well, so I don't specifically know exactly how it started. The story that I have created around it. My father passed away.
A true story?
Yeah, my father passed away when I was 6 years old, and I don't know if that was the impetus or the push for it or what, but I know that they were looking for, and they being my immediate family, my mom, my uncle, kind of looking for an outlet for me. And I had done like a Christmas play with like the pageant kind of thing that you would do in your elementary school. And I loved doing it. I took a shine to it. And my uncle worked for the city of Calgary. And at the time, City Hall was right across from the new arts complex and where Theatre Calgary was. And he must have overheard the casting director complaining about how they couldn't find a Tiny Tim to be in A Christmas Carol. And God bless us, everyone. And he always took lunch there. And so he was listening, and he asked, well, my nephew is a tiny kid and really enjoys theater. How would he go about getting in front of you? And so they must have exchanged cards, or somehow I ended up auditioning and getting the part. And then that gooder English today from Tyler. That led to basically the next 15 years being in theater. I guess 12 years, give or take. And then I went to a fine arts high school that specialized in musical theater and production. When I moved to Vancouver, I started acting in a Tony-nominated show called Ragtime. And then just kind of, I think I did a couple more plays after that and kind of gave up the theater side, because particularly then, I don't know if it's still the same way, but culturally there was a real divide between you're either a theater actor or you were film and TV. And you had to really pick, were you an equity actor or were you an ACTRA actor? Which were you? Because at that time I was unionized. I'd been doing it long enough that I was in the union. And I don't know. It kind of evolved from there. So yeah, I kicked off at 6 years old, probably with the school play. I remember doing a few of them. I played Peter Rabbit in grade one in a play like that. And then just started doing it more and more professionally until next thing I knew, I'd graduated from the Alberta High School of Fine Arts. I had ended up in Vancouver and made a living of it. For what must have been 7 years, I did nothing really but act. First couple of years, obviously, doing other odd jobs. I even remember helping a friend of mine who I met doing stunt work was a painter. And so I would help him paint houses in the summer. And, like weird things like that, but basically full-time acting. And especially from about 2001 to about 2004, all I did was spend my time on set. I think either 2003 or 2004, I was over 250 days on set. Oh, wow. I made a decent amount of money too. Like it's not a movie star lifestyle, right? Like you're not Beverly Hills, lifestyles of the rich and famous, baller money. But when you're 25 years old and you're making between 60 and 80K, especially back in 2000, and that's, Canadian. So what, like 35,000 pounds?
Maybe the Canadian dollar is not much different now. When I went over, I think it was one pound was £1 or $1.60, something like that.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, about $1.60 to the pound.
Yeah.
But and then in euros, we're pretty close now to the euro, I think too. But either way, I mean, it was a decent, right? Like when you're 25 with no responsibilities and a 2-bedroom apartment downtown Vancouver, like that, you're you're living the high life.
Made it.
You know, parties and girlfriends, and life was good. Like, it was fun.
That time period you mentioned between 2000 2004, that was quite a kind of decorated period, maybe, because there's films, like big name films, that we'd seen. This is on IMDb, so please tell me I'm right. So Freddie versus Jason, Carrie. You played the counsellor in Freddie versus Jason, was it? The male counsellor, was that right?
Yeah. So like Jason and Freddie, like Jason Voorhees, right? Like it was cool being on a horror film and seeing icons like that, and especially meeting Robert Englund, who plays Freddie. Yeah, that was cool because he's somebody who has embraced his typecasting, which is so unfortunate because he is one of the most talented, most gracious actors I've ever worked with. Like, he is amazing, and he's so typecast as Freddie because he's Freddie. Yeah. But the cool thing is I'm a blip in that movie, just so you know. Like, I am literally, I think I might be 30 seconds minutes in that film, and I have 2 lines, and one of them I'm facing away from the camera, so it's right. Like, you never like. Is
it the point when Freddie turns into you?
Yes.
Yes. Aye.
You saw it
today, Gavin.
I've seen it before, but when I was like years ago. But I had a look through the what would you call it? The script, sort of, when it was your point, your part, and he's having sex with a dead person. Yes.
And so the funny thing is the girl that they originally cast to do that role is just the most beautiful human being on the planet, Laura, who is dual citizen UK, actually lived in London for a while and was acting with the BBC. Phenomenal actress, and I just love her to pieces. We were friends for years and years and years on set. And when Ronnie Yu, who is the director, is trying to explain what he wanted us to do, she was like, no, I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, but you must, you have the sex like this. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm especially not doing it with Tyler. Like, no, it'll ruin a friendship that we're not. No. And so there was this really classy gentleman's club downtown called Brandy's. So they literally drove down and asked one of the girls there. They're like, who wants to make $300 today for 2 hours worth of work? And they're like, oh, we've heard this before. And they're like, no, not that kind of work. Film work. They're like, we've heard this before. They're like, no, like a real film. They're like, okay. So the girl that had come onto set was supposed to be dancing on stage that night. And one of the jobs that Tyler had when he was an actor, I used to drive a limo for those girls around so that they could make it to the various stages. So you'd have like headliner girls, and they would go from this strip club to this strip club to this strip club. And I used to drive them around, and I would hear them complain, right? I'm very sympathetic to all causes women. I grew up in a household of 8 women. After my father passed away, my mom took in nannies and boarders and roommates and stuff like that. So I had a very heavily female influenced growing up. And so I knew that this poor girl was going to have to go on stage. So if you see the scene, it's up against a cedar shack, like an old camp, cabin. And so I had to put my hand up against this cabin, and I have Ronnie over my shoulder going, harder, faster. And she's like, and this poor girl is having to pretend to be dead and having sex. And I'm using my arm as a shield so she doesn't get splinters all up and down her back. By the end of the film day, I was just cut up on my forearm. It was just brutal. But to this day, it's still one of my most favorite times on set. And because I get to morph into Jason at the end of it. Exactly. How cool is that? Turn around. I think the line was, so the main girl comes up and she's like, are you going to help him? Because Jason is drowning in the lake. All the kids are picking on him. And I'm like, and I kind of look over my shoulder, but not really. And I'm like, can't you see I'm busy? And she goes, aren't you going to come? And then I morph into Freddie and I go, I'm trying, but this bitch is dead on her feet. Classic horror movie line. Good times. But oh man, to be able to say that I morphed into Freddy Krueger,
that's amazing.
That's a fun story.
I'm a big girl, not big girl, because girls like scary movies, but I'm petrified of scary movies. Absolutely cannot watch them, man. Cannot do it.
But Kenny,
I know.
They're almost comedies.
Exactly.
Freddie and versus Jason was a kind of comedy-ish movie, was it not? Like, it's no like
the comedy elements of the horror film.
It was like proper like laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, so if you watch the whole franchise, the original Nightmare on Elm Street is a masterclass in horror. Like Wes Craven, like it's creepy. It's, you know, the Jaws effect, right? Because you don't see the monster until the end. Like it is so good. But then you finally see Freddie and you know what he looks like, and now you know. And then when they as they started going through like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and like 5, I think is Dreamcatcher or something, like I don't know. Like they get really campy really quick. They stop being scary and they start being parodies upon themselves. But if you don't like that, you want to see something else that I did, watch Scary Movie 3, because it's not scary. It is a comedy.
Scary movie?
Scary Movie 3.
Nice.
I'm a hand double in Scary Movie 1, but that doesn't count. That was fun.
It's not the guy with the hand, is it?
No, that's Scary Movie 2. And it's a funny movie. No, Scary Movie 3, I'm in a Jon Stewart. No, it's not Jon Stewart. I keep thinking that it was Jon Stewart, and I'm lying because it wasn't. I can't remember who played the broadcaster. Like it's cable news thing. Right. And he's like, this just in, and it shows 2 dogs humping, and then an alien walks behind, and then he's like, oh, and we have another sighting, and it goes to some frat boys who are doing a keg stand, and then as it pans past the guys doing the keg stand, it shows 2 college kids, college kid number 1, right, moi, and college kid number 2, and we've had too much of the bubbly, and we projectile vomit onto each other's shoes. Right. Which, if you ever get a chance to film a scene where you get to projectile vomit, that's the real fun in filming.
That's where you want to be. How did you make yourself vomit then? How did you manage to?
Oh, I didn't have to do anything. They attached a tube to the side of my face right here that ran kind of down my neck and then into the hoodie that I was wearing and then through my pant leg. And they attached it to a keg and pressurized this concoction of, I think it was Campbell's vegetable soup and some kind of glycerin and some other stuff. It smelt atrocious by the end of the day. But you just, and it was like a vacuum nozzle. Like it was a good inch round piece. And so it was here. And so all I had to do was go. And then the guy, as I went like this, the guy on the keg would go like that. And then out would come the puke. And we had to time it right so that I was getting it, because if you did it like this, it went in the wrong arc. And if it was like this, it came out too fast. So we had to get it so it did. Trying to get the right angle for puke was the hardest part of that shoot.
Hardest part of the movie, full stop.
Oh yeah, for sure. Forget this visual and special effects. No, getting the puke to work was the hard one.
Insider Secrets of Hollywood. It's just a big tube.
There we go.
Smoke and mirrors. It's all fake.
That's interesting though. See, when you're on set for these scenes, like, are you quite segregated from all the other cast members and stuff, or are they hanging about? Or
it depends on the set. So, like, I'm actually, it's a post that I'm doing today. Ironically enough, that we're speaking about it. I'm not somebody who normally gets starstruck, because I've been in the arts for so long that, you know, like I've met dozens of celebrities over my lifespan. I've worked with Helen Mirren, Dame Helen Mirren. Let's give her the respect she deserves. Sir Ian McKellen, I've even jammed in my trailer with William H. Macy. He came in when we were filming Door to Door, which is a phenomenal film, by the way, if you get a chance to watch it. He came in, he was learning to play guitar. He's like, "Hey, do you mind if I come in?" I'm like, "No, come in. I drum. Let's do this." So like we had a fun jam session in my trailer, but I've never been starstruck, except I was doing background work. So I wasn't even really, it's right extra. Like you're just that person in the back doing the cross on a show called The Spring. And my girlfriend at the time was obsessed with The Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. John Cusack film, Kevin Spacey. Yeah. Really, really phenomenal film. Beautifully shot. And Eastwood directed it. And he had his daughter in it. So Clint Eastwood cast his daughter, Allison Eastwood, in it. And so I must have watched The Garden of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil probably 50 times that year when it came out, finally on DVD. And here was Allison Eastwood at her trailer, and they didn't have it segregated. So what they call the circus is kind of where they bring all the production trailers and stuff, and Extras Holding, which was just a big tent, was right beside it. And as a union member, I get fed lunch, bonus.
Nice.
And so literally, and the talent is supposed to go first. So there is a segregation. So you get the crew through first, they break first, and they get to eat first. And then talent gets to eat, and that's anybody with lines and a trailer and a proper thing. And then PAs, and then the very last people to go through are the extras. Somehow, she must have wanted extra dessert. I don't know what, but Allison Eastwood was like, "Here."
You like that?
Yeah. And I was like, and then she turned around and said hi to me. And I was like, "Hi."
Shit.
and she was just being normal. And I'll never forget, it was July 29th because my birthday is July 31st. And in Vancouver, they have this thing called the Symphony of Fire. It used to be sponsored by Benson and Hedges, but they're not allowed to do that no more because it's a cigarette company. So I don't know now it's the Celebration of Lights, but it used to be the Benson and Hedges Symphony of Fire. And I had the best apartment to view it because I had these big picture windows. They were like floor to ceiling windows in my apartment, and you could see over English Bay, and the barge was parked right there. And so I looked at her and I'm like, "I have a fireworks party on my birthday, which is in 2 days, if you want to come."
But so there was
I don't know why
interaction before this. That was just
no.
Try to get her into bed straight
That
away.
was she was just like, "Hi." I think she said hi. I was like, "Hi," and I think she asked, "What's there fun to do around here?" Was I think the primer question to that. And yeah, I was just like, "Come and hang out in an apartment of a strange extra who you don't know." Hi. You know what the worst part is?
She said yes.
She did.
Oh, what?
I knew that was
2 days later, I have everybody in my apartment. We're, drinking wine. I'm explaining how I've just mortified myself. My girl, and I told her that my girlfriend was a big fan, I think was the other thing. I said, she would absolutely die if you came. So her and Kyle MacLachlan, Paul Atreides from Dune, and I'm a big Herbert fan. Frank Herbert, the Dune. Actually, Dune is not even his best work. I like his other works too. But anyway,
this is going
bottom line,
strange.
They show up at my door and they're like, bottle of wine, little charcuterie thing, and I'm like, "Hi." To my girlfriend, I'm like, "Meet Allison."
Surprise!
It was the most bizarre, strangest thing ever.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, it depends on the set. They're usually separated. You don't get to hang out with people unless you're talent.
I think Kyle MacLachlan quite weird. The things that he plays that I feel like, oh, you're a creepy guy because he's in
so
and he's creepy.
I have heard that he can be quite odd. For the half hour he was at my place, was
cool,
really quite pleasant. I didn't really talk to him because I didn't know what the fuck I was going to say to Kyle MacLachlan. Be like, "Hey, yeah, so I really liked how you wore your desert suit. Obviously you knew the Freeman way." Like, what do you say to Kyle MacLachlan? Right? And yeah, and he plays such weird characters, and how do you separate them from the man? And like, yeah, I did not say much to him. And they quickly left my apartment. It was very nice of them to show up and be a thrill for my girlfriend and my guests. Right? They were all like,
us.
You must have been the man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I rode that for probably 2 years.
Quite right?
Oh yeah.
Like, how's Alison? You know, how are they? They're well. You know,
right. And the funny thing is, like, it's one of the things that I wonder: does she remember showing up on my birthday and making I think at the time, a 21 or 22-year-old kid's absolute year?
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing that she remembers doing, or was that just a blip?
She wouldn't have been that much.
Well, Clint Eastwood is like 90s, you know, so she might have. What age was Alison at the time? Was she?
Alison Eastwood is currently 48 years old.
Yeah, she wasn't that much older than me.
Right,
maybe she was trying to like pull you. Maybe she really thought you were a handsome man. She's like,
yeah,
I'll go
that's exactly it. I had a shot, is what you're saying.
And you missed.
I blew it. Just think, 15, 20 years later, I could have been calling Clint Eastwood dad. Yeah, I don't think so.
That's quite scary. One thing that I always like, see when you meet someone famous or like an idol, or I always think if I was to sit down, I would struggle to make. I would just want to talk about, like, tell me what this film was like. Tell me what this was like. When really they'd probably just want a normal conversation. But I can't do that. I'll be like, I love you. Like, oh, what was that film? Like,
we're not worthy. We're not worthy. Yeah, but, no, like I said, I've been on both sides of that spectrum, where you look at somebody and you're just like, like, I think if I had met Sir Ian McKellen in different circumstances, I probably would have been similar. But how I met him was just bizarre. So I was doing, it was during the filming of X-Men 2, and I was doing makeup testing for, what's his Irish? Played Nightcrawler. I can't think of his name right now.
Nightcrawler.
It'll come to me. You guys can do the Google search while I'm telling the story. Anyway, he was still in the UK filming something else. And so they needed a double to, what's that?
Alan Cumming.
Alan Cummings. Yes. Phenomenal actor as well. Love Alan Cummings. He was great in Cabaret. When they redid it on Broadway, I got to see him in Cabaret. Man, he is brilliant. He is a brilliant, brilliant actor and singer and dancer. Like, he's the triple threat, and I just loved him. Anyway, he wasn't available to do his makeup testing, and nor would you want to put your star through 14, 16 hours worth of makeup when they needed to test a couple of different effects. So basically for 2.5, 3 weeks, I would show up at the studio, and then they would torture me with makeup in a chair for 14 hours. And blue makeup too. Like, I was pulling blue makeup out of every crevice and orifice of my body for weeks after that. But anyway, they needed to do this test where in one of the scenes, the makeup starts to sweat off of Alan Cummings. And so you need to go from like a flesh tone to the blue. And they were trying to test it out. And so I kept having to go from the makeup trailer into the studio, where the director would then look at it and be like, yeah, no, or whatever, and approve it. And then they finally got to the point where they were going to put the contacts in, and they were like lizard eye contacts, and you couldn't see through them because they're cosmetic. Like, you could see a little bit, but it was super hazy, super fuzzy. And so I remember they basically having to guide me through, because it's dark on set too, right? Like, so they have the controlled lighting in wherever they're shooting, but then inside the studio, it's pitch black. And then I had contacts, so I really couldn't see anything. And they sit me down in one of those director chairs, and I'm sitting, and to the side of me, I hear this voice from the dark, and it goes, "Are you feeling very well today?" And I say, "Well, yeah, no, I'm doing good. Thank you." He goes, "It's just that you look a little blue."
Ah.
It was fucking Ian McKellen. I didn't know. And then I'm like, oh, that's funny, right? And I kind of have a little chuckle. I still don't know who I'm talking to. And then I hear the PA walk up to him and go, Ian, they're ready for you. He goes, very well. Time to do my thing. And he walks off. And I'm like, fuck. That was Ian McKellen. I could have had a way better conversation with that man if I could have only seen. It was beautiful. I loved it.
It sounds like
he's cool, man.
The excitement that you've obviously had over the 35 years that you've been doing it. It's all worth it, definitely. Because
I wouldn't have changed a single thing. I've loved every day of every minute of my life it's been something, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is it's not just them. Like the fact that I get to have a persona now where I get to have conversations with you two, right? Mm-hmm. Like I get to hang out and chat with Kenny and Gavin and make new friends across the pond and invite you over. So when you're in Calgary, you know how to reach me and 100%. You can come crash at the house and we'll take you out and we'll get you all sorted out with the Stampede and Vamp, you know, like that, this has made it so worthwhile to be able to, you know, just live an incredibly blessed life, really.
Yeah. Well,
so what is it you do now then? So you're an author?
Yeah, author of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked. Yeah. So I kind of wear a couple of different hats. I have a couple of companies under my direction. I have a safety consulting firm, which I now am not very active in. I used to be a safety professional and consultant, which I got into because I used to do film work and I was in stunts. And then when I got out of stunts, I went back to school, started an aerial survey company, and it spun from there and somehow I ended up in safety. And so I have the safety branch, but what I found over the last couple of years is what made me effective as a safety professional was my ability to communicate ideas and concepts to pretty much anybody. So I could talk to the boardroom just as much as I could talk to the white collar and the blue collar folk. Yeah. So it didn't matter if you were C-suite or if you were middle management or if you were supervisor or if you were a laborer on the floor. I had the ability to communicate concepts to people. And I had a lot of success with my company because a lot of people would come to me asking for that help. And then it became a matter of that I started getting paid a lot of money to come and train people to do what I do. And so I ended up, because so many people asked and I didn't really have a system, I'm charismatic. What do I do? Yeah. That I spent a good 18 to 24 months kind of taking 35 years of experience and distilling it down and reverse engineering how I came to do the things that I do. And then I put it into a book, and The Power to Speak Naked became available. And I self-published that book. And because of its success, it's actually been picked up by a publisher now, and it's going to be available in bookstores in September. So that's really cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Is it you that's on the cover?
I wish. So wish. Because I'm ripped like that. No.
Can see the
so I wanted to be on the cover, and but I couldn't get the photo shoot worked out in time. So when you're creating a book, there's like timelines and milestones that have to be hit, and the cover is usually one of those first things before, like half the time before your manuscript is even approved, they need the cover because that's where all the PR is generated from. Mm-hmm. And so I had this time deadline for the cover, and we had the concept of what we wanted. And so that was a stock footage or like stock image that was supposed to be a placeholder and for me to do my photo shoot so that I could do it. And in the original concept, it wasn't supposed to be facing back. It was supposed to be me facing the front and holding the Power to Speak Naked sign appropriately where it needed to be.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work out. And then I've actually been banned from advertising on Amazon and advertising on Facebook because even with the image to the back of just a male back like that, it
social guidelines
breaches their nudity clauses for overtly sexual imagery and suggestive poses. So I can't actually advertise my book on Amazon.
I've seen much worse on Facebook, put it that way.
Oh, I know. I have to, but they're not advertising. So I can post it, right? I can put it up, I can have it. But if I try to do any kind of paid promotion
with it,
or boost a post or whatever, I am not allowed to do it. So you can go on Amazon right now and buy the book, but you will never see an advertisement for my book. So I can't, I have no promotion for it whatsoever. So it managed to make it to be a bestseller just on word of mouth, which is super awesome because I have no way of getting PR behind it.
Cool.
So shit, man.
What's the plans for the future then? Are you, obviously you've got your companies. Are you continuing acting? Are you going to do any more books? What's the...
So yeah, the second edition of the book is in the works. Just actually finishing up that manuscript right now, and that'll probably be published in 2022. And that's just because, to be honest, I didn't even write my book. I spoke my book. Yeah. So what we did was we took a lot of the training modules that I had done and transcribed them, and we rearranged them into a sensible pattern and made the book. But what's happened is, as I've been promoting it and as I've gotten a lot of feedback on the book, most of it really, really positive, there are more questions that have come out of it. And so we're going to be publishing a second edition, a revised edition of the book that answers a lot of those questions. So it'll go from what is currently a 10 chapter book to probably a 14 or 15 chapter book and expand from 144 pages to over 200. Just, conversations like this where, well, how do you do that? Or what is this? Or can you delve more into this topic? Yeah. And it's just a new exploration. And I still act, more specifically, I've been acting vicariously through my daughter. So the nice pro setup that we have here is actually so that I can do auditions, because we're not auditioning in person currently. Yeah. It's all taped. So this is my pretty setup so that I can actually still audition. And I've got my 5-year-old into it. So I'm super proud because she's been doing more work than daddy. Yeah. And then I've got the speaker training to support the book. So we've got a whole series of online training videos. And once we can start traveling again, we'll be having seminars and workshops. So a 2.5-day seminar to help people overcome the fear of public speaking, and then a 5-day full workshop for people who really want to take public speaking and make it a craft and an art and an income form. Because I know that I've used it myself. When I first started my company, again, I've been self-employed for a long time, but when I really put a focus on total buy-in back in 2015, my wife basically gave me a 2-year deadline and a target. She's like, you have to be making more than me in 2 years, or you have to stop. And my wife is a very well-paid project manager for one of the largest home builders in the province, not just the city, largest home builder in the city. So she's making over 6 figures comfortably. And right. So I had 2 years to make this thing happen. And for the first 1.5 years, it wasn't. And it wasn't until I started being able to communicate to many people on stage and stop doing, first of all, one-on-one work, and to be able to get to a point where I could separate myself from the business and have other people doing the work for me, that I was able to accelerate it. And it was all because of public speaking. If I couldn't have done the public speaking, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah.
So training people to be able to do that.
Because your wife is so rich. That's what you would have just eat up.
Yeah.
Let the wife do that. You just chill.
Stay home.
Well, yeah. So that's the other thing. I do have a bit of a luxury having a sugar mama, but we play a really good game, right? Because there's years where I make more than her, and there are years where she makes more than me, and we don't care which one is which. What we care about is, what did we do last year, and did we make more this year? Which is and I'm blessed because my wife is amazingly supportive, and always has been, because we are polar opposites. We are yin and yang. I am very much a risk taker. She is very risk averse. We come from two different philosophies. She's very metric oriented. I'm very and metrics and process. I'm very conceptual and end game. And she loves to get into the weeds. I love to have the 100,000-foot view. So we really mesh and gem well. And I've been blessed for the last 15 years to have my best friend and supporter and cheerleader by my side. And it doesn't help that she makes good money. It's a bonus, right? Like that helps.
That's amazing.
Kicker.
Well,
you think your 35 years, or just your 35 years of acting is how you can communicate so well with so many different people? Because you can
I think so. I mean,
so much
when I remember
sections.
the very, very first time I made an audience laugh, right? And that feeling is electrifying. It's one of the greatest feelings on the planet. I know a fellow speaker of mine and a really good friend, Bob Cattell. He's a memory guy. So he started his public speaking as this guy with this photographic memory, and he trained people how you could have perfect recall. And he has a beautiful system. But then he moved into motivational speaking. And one of the things that he used to do was he would pull somebody up on stage, usually somebody who had real negative thoughts or poor self-worth, or just generally had a poor demeanor. He was really good at finding them, because he's just a genuine, true human being. And he would bring them up on stage, and he would make them stand, and then he would have everybody give them just a round of applause. And then he would make them do it bigger and then bigger. And then he'd be like, now everybody stand up and give her or him a standing ovation. And inevitably, when you do it, like, the person would just cry, because the energy that comes from that, the energy you feel from a live audience who is engaged with you and is loving on you, and the sound of it, like, it washes over you. Nothing on the planet feels better than that sound and that feeling. It's pure love and adoration, and it's amazing to feel. And I think everybody on the planet should get to experience that at least once in their lifetime. And when you get that drug, you get hooked on that drug. And all you want is more and more and more of it. So I've spent 35 years chasing.
A big round of applause.
And right. And that, being able to connect with an audience, because now you know what does it. How do I get that? Well, you connect with your audience. You personalize message. You bring them in. You take them on a journey. You make them feel emotions. And it's not hard to do. It's really, really, really easy. People have been doing it for centuries.
Yeah.
And when you learn the tricks, oh man, you can have people eating out of the palm of your hands. Now, what I try to do is I make sure that when I'm giving people this power, that they use it for good instead of evil. So I always set it up, because it's one thing to want it selfishly, but it feels better when you do it selflessly. If you've given so much of yourself that your audience feels compelled to applaud you at the end, that is way better than using tricks and scripts and mind manipulation and wording to be able to force somebody to want to do that. It's better. It's always better when it is freely given as opposed to taken.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's pretty.
Just manipulating people into doing what you're looking for by using kind of, what's that word? Like
Techniques.
NLP or something like that, neurolinguistic programming and stuff.
Yeah. Where if you can do it purposely to take them on a journey so that they feel better, it's always better, better. And it's become my mission now to make sure that anybody can do that, so that you two could stand up tomorrow and do it.
Yeah.
And command your audience and bring them in. It's a really powerful skill, and one that anybody can learn, and is, done great things for my life, and I just want to pass it on.
Well, that speech definitely deserves a applause. Tyler, I've got one more question for you.
It's the most important question you'll ever have in your full life. Be prepared.
Just before, Kenny, you want to ask or say before I dive in?
No, I think this is just it's straight. You need to kind of wrap that up, and then I'll ask another question.
So,
commit now.
Tyler, if you could have one drink and one drink only, what would you have, and who would it be with?
Oh, I get to have it with somebody.
Past or present.
So, alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
You choose.
You choose.
Okay. My favorite drink on the planet is a London Fog. And if I could share that London Fog with one person, it would be Dave Grohl, hands down.
Oh, nice. Whoa. Dave Grohl's a cool guy. What's a London Fog?
What's a London Fog? So a London Fog is basically a tea latte. So it's Earl Grey tea with a shot of vanilla and then milk foam on it. It's sweet, but not too sweet. It's flavorful without being overpowering. It's non-alcoholic, so you can still get, professionally through a day. And it's just lovely. I strongly suggest you two go out, because I guarantee you can get a London Fog in Glasgow. Get it from
Starbucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Starbucks will have it, but support local. Like, screw Starbucks.
Yeah, agreed. Sorry, I know that was the last question, but when I was in Canada, I was told to try this drink, and it was the worst drink I have ever tried in my life.
Caesar.
Yes.
Wow. I agree with you.
Oh my God.
No, it's pure shite.
It's like it's a Bloody Mary with clam juice.
Yeah. So instead of making a Bloody Mary with tomato juice, you use clamato juice because, right, the juice of clams should be in everything, obviously. Oh, no, it's horrible. God. Funny thing about the Caesar, it was actually invented in Calgary.
There you go.
Yeah. So that drink, we are purely responsible for the horror that is, and I apologize. I apologize to everyone in the world, whoever comes to Canada, who is told, you have to try this great drink, who then is accosted by the disgusting flavors that overwhelm your body. I'm sorry. On behalf of all of Canada, I apologize.
Do people possibly do it to take the piss? Go, this is a good drink.
No, people actually like it. My mother loves them. My wife loves them. My mom does something even worse, though, okay? Are you ready? So you are now familiar with the atrocity that is Mott's Clamato juice. You have tried it.
Yep.
You, being from the UK, I'm assuming also have a fine appreciation for ale. Yes?
Yes.
Would you ever, in your life, combine a beer and Clamato juice and think that was a good idea?
No. That's disgusting.
Everybody in Alberta does it, and I don't understand.
Right, see you later. That is.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, they're not doing it to take the piss out of you. They're doing it because they genuinely like it and don't understand why you don't. But I'm with 98% of the world going, okay, you lost me at clam juice.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing,
worth asking one more question for me,
because I'm not really a big fishy person either. So when I was told to have it, they wouldn't tell me what was in it. So I didn't know what to expect, and then when I tasted that, disgusting. Disgusting.
I'd rather have haggis and blood pudding than I would have a bloody Caesar. Yuck.
Oh man.
Listen, thank you so much, man. That was brilliant. I loved every minute of
that. I know. Thanks for taking the time, Tyler. It was a pleasure. And keep in touch, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
Gavin, Kenny, anytime you want, we will come and wax poetic. I'll be a regular for you. Happily.
Nice. Definitely, man. Especially the beautiful face you've got, man. And it'll be your podcast soon.
Yeah, no, that's the funny thing. Do you know what the greatest thing about being a guest as opposed to a host is? It's kind of like being grandparents. right? The grandparents come in, they entertain the kid for a little bit, and then they walk away. You, unfortunately, are the parents. You're stuck with that little hellion day in, day out. You have to run this show. I just get to show up and look good. I would much rather be a guest.
Well, you've definitely done that.
Certainly have, aye. We'll take care and keep in touch, man. We'll speak to you soon.
Definitely. All right.
Peace out.
Thanks, guys.